historians date the beginning of the civil rights movement to December 1st, 1955. That was the day an unknown seamstress, Rosa Parks, refused to give up her seat to a white passenger in Alabama, Montgomery. Rosa Parks was arrested and fined for violating a city ordinance. For her act of defiance began a movement that ended legal segregation in America. The bus incident led to a formation of Montgomery Improvement Association led by Dr. Luther King Jr. The association called for a boycott for city-owned bus company. The boycott lasted 382 days and brought Parks, Dr. King, and their cause to attention to the world. A Supreme Court decision struck down the Montgomery Ordinance under which Parks had been fined. It outlawed racial segregation on public transportation, and the Southern Christian Leadership Council established an annual Rosa Parks Freedom Award. President Clinton presented Rosa Parks with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1996. I read way too fast.
Yes.
What was that last thing?
Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1996.
In 1955, Martin and other civil rights activists were arrested for boycotting Montgomery, Alabama Transportation Company because they were forcing black people to give up their seats or being forced to sit at the back or to stand up. Martin spoke speeches in which was called mass demonstrations to bring up the subject of racial discrimination, as well as demanding the civil rights legislation to protect the rights of all black people. In Birmingham, Alabama, 1963, when Martin gave another mass demonstration, white police officers let out police dogs and took to hoses to use against them. This event made the newspaper headlines around the whole world. 250,000 plus protesters arrived during Martin's I Have a Dream speech consisting of his beliefs and opinions if the world were different. In 1964, because of the emotional speech, the Civil Rights Act was put into action.
In the 1950s, Chief Marshall began focusing on elementary schools and high schools. Millions of students around the country were attended in segregated schools, but the African Americans were almost always in lower-ranked schools. The court put all the cases into a single case, which was known as the Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. The court wanted to consider research about segregation effects on African Americans. Chief Warren issued the Supreme Court decision. Schools can't be segregated no matter how bad black children wanted to go to schools with white children. They were not allowed no matter how bad they wanted to go. And colored white children and white children had their own drinking fountains. There would be signs around town saying where the people could go and colored people could go. When white and colored people had to wait for something, there would be even different waiting rooms between the white and the colored.
The March on Washington was another major event that took place during the Civil Rights Movement. African American leaders planned a huge march on the nation's capital for August 1963. The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom took place on August 28, 1963. It was the largest civil demonstration ever held in the United States. More than 200,000 people of all races covered the national wall. Popular African American singers also performed for the people. He started off by reviewing African Americans' long struggle throughout history for freedom. His speech became known as the I Have a Dream speech. Nobody was sure how many people would turn up for the demonstration. Philip was president of the Brotherhood of the Sleeping Cars Porters. Blacks had benefited less than other groups from the New Deal programs during the Great Depression. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference put aside their long-standing rivalry in which blacks and whites were urged to attend. I went too fast. Yeah, that's the end of that.